I donated a kidney to my wife's affair partner. My act of ultimate revenge was disguised as an act of mercy. My name is David, a 38-year-old male. For most of my adult life, I lived a life that looked like it was built from a blueprint. I married my college sweetheart, Eleanor, a 36-year-old female. We built a successful tech consulting firm from the ground up. We weren't just business partners. We were best friends. We finished each other's sentences, celebrated every small victory together, and our love felt like an unshakable fortress. The one shadow in our perfect life was my father's health. He was suffering from terminal brain cancer. It's an indefusable time bomb, where he had only limited days left to live. I knew that eventually I had to face the harsh reality. It was a dark cloud on a distant horizon, but with Eleanor by my side, I never truly feared it. The first sign that our foundation was made of sand came about 3 years ago. Eleanor started working late more frequently. A big new client, very demanding, she'd say, her phone perpetually face down on the table. There was a new distance in her eyes, a subtle shift in the energy of our home. I wrote it off as stress. We were building an empire. Stress was part of the deal. Then, I finally got the bad news from my brother. My father had passed. I was shocked. I was terrified. I came home, desperate for the comfort of my wife, my rock. I found her in the living room, crying. My heart broke for her, thinking she was crying for me. I went to hold her, and she flinched. That's when I saw it. Her phone was in her lap, the screen still lit up. A text message from a contact saved as client. I can't stop thinking about last night. Tell me when I can see you again. I love you. The world didn't just tilt. It shattered. Confrontation was a brutal, ugly affair. Tears, denials, and finally, a cold, hard confession. His name was Mark. He was the big new client. It had been going on for 6 months. The classic story, the thrill, the attention, the midlife crisis packaged as true love. The betrayal was a psychological sickness, worse than the realization that one of my family members had died recently. The two pillars of my life, my family and my marriage, were collapsing simultaneously. We tried counseling. We slept in separate rooms. The house became a museum of our dead relationship. About 4 months into this hell, Eleanor came to me, her face a mess of guilt and desperation. "David, it's Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "He's in the hospital. He's in renal failure. He needs a transplant." The cosmic irony was so profound it was almost funny. The man who was systematically destroying my life was now suffering a terrible fate himself. Talking about karma at its finest. "He's on the list, but you know how long that can take," she whispered, unable to meet my eyes. "He might not have that long." A dark, monstrous idea began to uncoil in the deepest, most wounded part of my soul. It was so terrible, so perfectly twisted, that it felt like divine inspiration. I looked at my wife, the love of my life who had chosen another man, and I spoke with a calm I did not feel. "I'll get tested," I said. "I'll see if I'm a match for him." Eleanor stared at me, disbelief warring with a flicker of desperate hope. "Why? Why would you do that? After everything?" I gave her the answer I had crafted in that single, pivotal moment. "Because if I can save a life, even his, maybe it will mean something. Maybe it will fix something in me. And because I still love you, Eleanor. And I can see this is destroying you, too." It was a lie. Every single word. The battery of tests was grueling. physicals, psychological evaluations, cross-matching. Through it all, I played the part of the remorseful, magnanimous husband, trying to atone for a failing marriage by performing the ultimate act of charity. Eleanor looked at me with a new, confused reverence. The day the call came, I knew what they would say. I was a perfect tissue match for Mark. The odds were astronomical. It felt like fate had handed me a loaded gun. The meetings that followed were surreal. I sat in a room with Eleanor and a pale, gaunt Mark. He could barely look at me. The guilt and his illness had hollowed him out. He stammered his thanks, his voice weak. "Don't thank me," I said, my voice steady, my gaze locking with his. "This isn't for you. This is for me and for Eleanor, for our future." The lie was the key that turned the lock. The surgery was scheduled. The day before the operation, as I was being prepped, I asked to see Mark alone. The nurses thought it was a beautiful, touching moment between donor and recipient. He lay in his hospital bed, vulnerable and terrified. "Mark," I said, my voice low, so only he could hear, "I know you're scared, but I need you to know something before we do this." He looked at me, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. "Anything, David. I owe you my life." I leaned in close, my smile benign for any watching nurses. But my eyes were ice. "I know you're not a match for Eleanor," I whispered. "The doctors tested you when you first got together, didn't they? A romantic gesture. And you found out you couldn't give her a child. That's why she stayed with me. She wanted a family. I was her backup plan." His face went slack with shock. He tried to speak, but I continued, my voice a soft, venomous drip. "This kidney I'm giving you," I said, patting his hand gently. "It's not a gift. It's a chain. For the rest of your life, every time you feel healthy, every time you take a breath without pain, you will remember that you owe it to me, the man whose life you tried to destroy. You will look at Eleanor, and you will know that she is only with you because I allowed it. You will live every single day knowing that your entire existence is a mercy granted by the man you betrayed." The color drained from his face completely. The heart monitor beside his bed began to beep faster. "I'm not giving you a kidney, Mark," I said, my final, quiet words landing like a hammer. "I'm giving you a life sentence, and I will be the warden in your head, forever." I turned and walked out of the room, leaving him alone with the terrifying truth. The surgery was a success. My kidney began functioning in his body immediately. Physically, we both recovered. But the psychological surgery I had performed was even more effective. Mark was never the same. He was physically healthy, but the light in his eyes was gone. He was distant, haunted. My words had poisoned his second chance at life. He and Eleanor tried to make it work. But how could you build a relationship on a foundation of my manipulation and his profound, unshakable guilt? They broke up within a year. Eleanor came to see me one last time. She looked tired, aged by the truth. "I know what you did," she said, her voice empty. "He told me what you said to him. You didn't save him out of mercy. You destroyed him out of revenge." I didn't deny it. "You both made your choices," I replied. "I just helped you live with the consequences. I am alone now. The business is solely mine. My health is stable. I manage with one kidney. I won. I destroyed my rival in the most complete way imaginable. I didn't kill him. I made him a living monument to my vengeance. But the victory is ash in my mouth. I look in the mirror and see a man capable of a cruelty I never knew existed within me. I used the gift of life as a weapon, I planned and executed the most psychologically devastating revenge I could conceive. I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am free, and I'm a monster, haunted by the ghost of the man I used to be. And the chillingly perfect revenge that cost me my own soul. TLDR. After discovering my wife's affair with a man named Mark, I learned he was dying of kidney failure. I pretended to be a selfless savior, got tested, and was a perfect match. I donated my kidney to him, but only after telling him I knew he was infertile and that my wife was only with him out of pity, ensuring he would live a long, healthy life tormented by guilt and the knowledge that he owed his existence to me.